Welcome, political science students. We are welcome to the third semester political science. As you know, this course for political science major students. This course is divided into 5 units, and unit 3 is Montesquieu's separation of powers, advantages and disadvantages. The instructor for this unit is Mr. G. Ramesh, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, St. Joseph's College for Women, Autonomous, Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh State, India. Learning outcomes. The third chapter of this unit is Montesquieu's separation of powers, advantages and disadvantages. By the end of this chapter, the learner should be able to identify the key advantages of Montesquieu's separation of powers and recognize limitations and challenges, assess real world examples, critically balance the concept of Montesquieu's theory of separation of powers, and apply the concept to contemporary issues. Content. This unit, that is separation of powers. The content of the chapter are branches of government, advantages of separation of powers, checks and balances, preventing concentration of power, promoting accountability and transparency, disadvantages of separation of powers, and finally conclusion. Now let's go into the lesson and look at the Montesquieu's separation of powers, advantages and disadvantages. Montesquieu's separation of powers, advantages and disadvantages. Baron de Montesquieu was a French political philosopher who is best known for his theory of separation of powers, which has had a profound impact on the development of modern democracies. There are so many advantages and as well as disadvantages also there in this theory. In the advantages, it prevents the tyranny and promotes balance, protect the civil liberties, and the disadvantages, difficult passing laws due to the disagreements, policy paralysis, and even inefficiency and conflict between the branches. So Montesquieu's separation of powers promotes balance, accountability and protect of individual rights, but also lead to gridlock, inefficiency and conflict. Branches of government. The three branches of government are executive, legislative, judiciary. The executive, headed by the president or prime minister, it is responsible for enforcing laws or executive laws. And the legislature comprises Congress or Parliament responsible for lawmaking. And judiciary comprises the Supreme Court and the other courts responsible for interpreting laws. The separation of powers among these three branches promotes balance, accountability and effective government. Advantages of separation of powers. The separation of powers offers several advantages: protection of liberties, accountability, stability, efficient decision making. So the separation of powers helps to protect individual freedoms and individual rights. It prevents the abuse of power. And each branch is accountable to the other branches, promoting transparency and good governance. It promotes accountability among all three branches. It encourages transparency and good governance. And separation of powers contribute to a more stable governments by creating a system of checks and balances that discourages hasty or arbitrary decisions. And efficient decision making. By dividing responsibilities, the separation of powers fosters more different efficient decision making as each branch focuses on its area of expertise. It encourages deliberation and negotiation, leads to more informed decision making. So the separation of power is essential for protecting individual liberties, promoting accountability and ensuring stability and effective governance. Checks and balances. The system of checks and balances ensures that no one branch of government has too much power. The executive branch can veto laws passed by the legislature. Executive branch can veto laws passed by the legislative branch and appoint judges and executive officials. And legislative branch can impeach and remove the executive or judicial officials, and also can override executive vetoes. And the judiciary can declare laws passed by the legislature or actions taken by the executive unconstitutional, and also interpret laws and ensures consistency. So checks and balances promote accountability, balance, stability in government. Preventing concentration of power, tyranny, abuse of power, dictatorship. The separation of powers helps prevent abuse of power, it means tyranny, safeguards individual rights and freedoms. And the separation of powers, preventing the concentration of power or abuse of power, limits authority of each branch, encourages accountability. And dictatorship prevents concentration of power, promotes democratic governance. So preventing concentration of power is essential for protecting individual liberties and promoting democratic stability. The theory of separation of powers promotes accountability, transparency, public oversight. So each branch can check the others, encourages oversight to the monitoring, and transparency, faster open governance and decision making, allows for public security and debate, and promotes good governance and responsible leadership. It builds trust in government and institutions. Disadvantages of separation of powers. The separation of powers can have several disadvantages: gridlock, inefficiency, difficult to pass laws. So the separation of powers can lead to gridlock, where different branches disagree and are unable to reach a consensus. Disagreements between branches can hinder lawmaking. Inability to implement policies due to gridlock. The system of checks and balances can make it difficult to pass laws even when there is widespread agreements on the need for them. And the separation of powers can sometimes be inefficient, as it can take time for different branches to coordinate their actions. Conclusion for the chapter: Montesquieu theory of separation of powers, advantages and disadvantages. Montesquieu doctrine of powers has had a lasting impact on modern democracies. Montesquieu theory of separation of powers offer a framework for balancing power and protecting individual rights. While it has advantages such as preventing tyranny and promoting accountability, it also has disadvantages like gridlock, inefficiency. Overall, the theory remains influential in shaping modern governance and constitutional design. What have we learned? Through this theory of separation of powers, identify key advantages, recognizing limitations and challenges, assess the real world examples, critically balance and the concept, and finally apply the concept to contemporary issues. Thank you.